Today we're going to look at chapter 13, which is a chapter on the demonstratives. Now in English, you have two demonstratives, and the singular and plural of each one looks considerably different, but they're not. One of the demonstratives in the singular is this, and its plural form is these. And the other demonstrative in the singular is that, which in the plural goes to those. This, these, that, those. Those are the demonstratives, and that's what we're learning today. In English, and we'll find out the same is true in Greek, demonstratives can function both as pronouns or as adjectives. If you say, this is mine, this is functioning as a demonstrative pronoun. Stands on its own, it has an antecedent, functions as a pronoun. If you say, that car is yours, the word that, a demonstrative, is functioning as a demonstrative adjective. The demonstratives in Greek are ούτος, and that's a rough breathing with a circumflex. And ούτος means this, and εκείνος, with a smooth breathing, means that. So the two demonstratives in Greek are ούτος and εκείνος. And just like in English, they can both function either as a pronoun or as an adjective. So for example, if you saw ούτος esti, ούτος, just look at it. Is it functioning as an adjective or as a pronoun? Well, it has to be a pronoun because it's all by itself, right? And ούτος is nominative singular masculine in this example. So it's the subject of the sentence, and so you're going to translate it. This is, well, because it's a pronoun, it's referring to someone or something, right? And so what you can do in order to make it clear that it's referring to someone or something, you can supply a helping word. When would you supply the word man? Right, if it's masculine singular, when would you say men? Masculine plural. In other words, you have to look at natural gender and look whether the pronoun is referring back to a person or not, and then you follow the normal rules we had for autos. This is nothing new to learn, but just take what you've learned in other words and apply it here. When a demonstrative is functioning as a pronoun, what determines its case? How it functions in the sentence. If the demonstrative is a subject, it's the nominative. If it's a direct object, it's the accusative. If it's the object of soon, it's dative. What will determine the gender and number of a demonstrative when it's functioning as a pronoun? What it's referring to, back to its antecedent. So in other words, nothing new to learn. Keep those slots open in your brain. But a demonstrative can also function as an adjective. So if you have ha anthropos ούτος, you're going to end up translating that this man. Now, when a demonstrative is functioning as an adjective, what determines its case, number, and gender? The word is modifying. See this little game we play? You got to take what you have learned in other chapters and see that you're reapplying the principles here. This is nothing new. And so, ha anthropos ούτος is going to be translated this man. Now, there's one thing that's a little unusual about ούτος, isn't there? You thought I made a typo in the overhead, didn't you? What's different about the position of ούτος? It's in the predicate position, isn't it? There's an article with the noun, but there's not an article with the demonstrative. And if this were an adjective, you would have to supply the verb is. The man is this. Okay, here's the rule. Demonstratives, when they are functioning as adjectives, are in the predicate position. Sometimes after the noun, sometimes before the article. And so this construction is translated, this man. Demonstratives, when they're functioning as adjectives, are in the predicate position. We've already seen this with the word, haven't we? What word tends to be in the predicate position when it's functioning as an adjective? Pos, right. Pos is going to come up in the predicate position when it's modifying something. Okay, here's the good news. The forms of εκείνos are very simple. It's a 2-1-2 adjective. The only thing you need to be aware of is just like the article, And just like autos, when you get into the nominative and accusative singular, it follows that sub-pattern and there's no case ending, so it's a kena. That means when you find a kenan with a nu, it can only be accusative singular masculine. Other than that, it's a normal paradigm. On into the plural as well. Remember when we learned autos, the forms, I said, be sure to realize that autos always has a smooth breathing. It'll help you keep autos separate from another word. This is the other word. You notice what happens to hutos in the feminine. It goes to haute with a rough breathing. Autos, third person personal pronoun, always has a smooth breathing. Hutos always has a rough breathing or a tau. So you have hutos in the nominative singular masculine, but then you go to tutu, and on down the paradigm. The endings are the same, the stem is changing. So the case endings are all normal, but the beginning of this word changes a bit. So hutos, the demonstrative pronoun, always has a rough breathing or an initial tau. You notice in the nominative and accusative neuter singular, it also drops the nu. So if you have tuton, it's accusative singular masculine. And you notice there's one other change, and it's not really a big deal. People are curious, but you can still parse these words without knowing it. And that is, look what happens to the first stem vowel. It can fluctuate between omicron and alpha, and it's going to agree with whatever the final vowel is. So on tutu, you have a stem ending in an omicron, so the first stem vowel goes to an omicron. But if you have tautes, you end in an eta, and so the initial vowel goes to an alpha. In one sense, you could just flip that initial vowel around. It really doesn't matter. You still can tell what the word is. But that's the rule if you want to know it. I have a confession to make. I lied. There aren't 4 cases. We talk about a 4-case system, but there's actually a 5th case. But it's only kind of half a case, so I guess that's only half a lie. Is that right? No, just teasing. We refer to a 4-case system. There actually is a 5th case called the vocative. But the vocative is so close to the nominative in so many ways that it's generally not taught as a separate case up front. The vocative is used when you're directly addressing someone. If you were going to talk to me and use a title, didaskalos, and you would say, teacher, then ask your question, for example, didaskalos is going to be in the vocative case because you're using it to directly address someone. Normally, you don't even have to know how to parse these things. It's so obvious from the context that it's a vocative because you're addressing the person. But here are the rules. And these rules don't cover every occurrence of the vocative, but they cover the vast majority of them. In the plural, the vocative and nominative are identical in form. So if you were to see adelphoi or andres, they're going to either be nominative or vocative. You don't have to parse them as such, but they could be either. And you're going to say brothers or men. That's how they're going to be translated. So in the plural, the vocative and nominative are identical. In the singular, it depends upon which declension it is. If it's a first declension word, the vocative is going to be the same as the nominative. So you're going to say sister, you'd say adelphe. If it's a second declension word, the vocative ending is normally epsilon. And so if you were going to address Jesus and call him Lord, you would say Kyria. If it's a third declension word, it's normally the bare stem, although sometimes the stem will have changed a little. So the vocative of pater with an eta is pater, where the eta is shortened to an epsilon. So the vocative is very straightforward. It's not a big challenge.